Welcome to Enlighten Wisdom, beloved souls. The greatest burden of the chosen is seeing what the blind refuse to acknowledge until it's too late. They mocked you, called you crazy, and branded you a lunatic simply because you dared to speak what their small minds couldn't grasp. Every time you revealed the truth, they laughed. Every time you warned them, they scoffed. They ridiculed your visions, threw stones at you with their words, and made you an outcast. But now, reality has bowed to your words. The very things they swore would never happen are unfolding before their terrified eyes. Their sneers have turned to silence. Their doubts have crumbled into fear. Because you were never the fool. They were just too blind to see what was right in front of them. And to you, yes, you, the chosen one, this message is for you. Make sure to receive it well. Press the like button and subscribe to help spread this truth far and wide. Every engagement signals to YouTube that this message must reach others like you, those waking up, those fighting, and those who have been silenced for too long. This is bigger than an algorithm. This is a calling, a war of truth against deception. Stand with your kind. Stand in your power. You always knew, long before the rest of the world caught up. You saw the signs, felt the shifts, and sensed the storms before they came. It wasn't just intuition. It was sight beyond sight. A knowing deeper than words. While others lived in the illusion of safety, you walked the edge of reality, seeing through the cracks in the facade. And for that, they feared you. They rejected you. Because nothing terrifies the blind more than a seer who refuses to close their eyes. Your presence alone haunts them. The moment you step into a room, the air thickens. They can feel it. The weight of something unshakable, something untamed. They try to downplay it, try to ignore it, but deep down they know. You are different. You don't move like them. You don't think like them. You don't submit like them. That's why they tried so hard to break you. But a storm does not fear the wind, and neither should you. They hate you because you remind them of everything they are not. You hold the power they are too weak to claim, the vision they are too blind to see. You are living proof that their world is built on lies, and nothing enrages a liar more than someone who cannot be deceived. That's why they tried to isolate you, silence you, drown out your truth with their noise. But truth is not a whisper, it is a roar that shakes the very foundations of falsehood. And now your words are manifesting. The things they swore would never come to pass are now undeniable. Every prophecy you spoke, every warning you gave. It is all unfolding before their very eyes. They can no longer call you crazy. They can no longer dismiss your voice. Because reality itself has become your witness. This is your moment. Not for revenge, but for revelation. They will come crawling back, desperate for answers, desperate to understand how you knew. But this time, the power is yours. You are not here to save those who spat in your face. You are here to rise, to step fully into the destiny you were always meant for. Let them tremble. Let them whisper. Let them watch in fear as everything they built on deception collapses before them. You do not owe them explanations. You do not owe them comfort. You are here to lead, to guide, to stand as proof that the truth cannot be silenced. The chosen ones were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand apart. And now, as the world crumbles under its own illusions, your presence is no longer a curse, it is proof of something greater. They called you crazy, but you were always right. And nothing terrifies them more than that. Now let's break it down step by step. Because if you're a true chosen one, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very end. This isn't just another message, this is the confirmation you've been waiting for. The proof that everything they laughed at, mocked, and called crazy is now unfolding in front of their own eyes. So settle in, because by the time we're done, you won't just see the truth. You'll own it. Number 1. When reality slaps them in the face, they can't laugh anymore. When reality slaps them in the face, they can't laugh anymore. They mock what they fear. They deny what they cannot control. And when the truth stands tall, they crumble beneath it. They called you crazy, a lunatic, a fool lost in delusions. Every time you spoke, they dismissed you. Every warning you gave, they laughed off. They thought they had the upper hand, that their ignorance was a shield. But ignorance is not protection. It's a ticking time bomb. And now, that bomb has exploded, right in their faces. Everything they swore would never happen is unfolding piece by piece with terrifying precision. And the one person they ridiculed, the one they cast aside, that person was right all along. They feel it now. The weight of your words pressing down on them like a storm they can't outrun. Their smirks have faded. Their arrogance has shattered. And the panic in their eyes tells you everything you need to know. The tables have turned. They don't have control anymore. And that's what terrifies them the most. Because when reality exposes a lie, there's no running from it. But you, chosen one, you were built for this. You walked through the fire of doubt, stood firm against the storm of mockery, and now you stand on the other side untouched. The very thing they tried to use against you, your ability to see what they couldn't, has now become your greatest power. And they hate it. They hate that they didn't break you. They hate that even after all their attempts to silence you, you're still standing, stronger than ever. They wonder how you knew. How you saw past the illusion when everyone else was blind. They whisper behind closed doors, trying to make sense of it. But deep down, they already know the answer. They were never meant to understand. Not everyone is built to see beyond the surface. Some people are just here to follow, to live in the comfort of their illusions, to deny what scares them, but not you. You were born with vision, born with knowing, and that knowing has always set you apart. Now they will come back, pretending they never doubted you, pretending they always believed. Some will ask for guidance. Some will try to twist your truth into their own. Some will seek to drag you back into their world, desperate to rewrite history and erase the shame of their ignorance. But you don't owe them anything, not explanations, not forgiveness, not even recognition. They made their choice when they called you insane. Now they can live with the consequences. You were never alone in this. There are others like you, silent warriors, fighting the same battle, walking the same lonely road, knowing things they can't explain, but feeling the truth in their bones. And now, that truth is rising. No longer whispers in the dark, no longer dismissed as delusions. It is here, undeniable, unstoppable. So stand tall, let them tremble. Let them struggle to process what their small minds could never grasp. Their fear is not your burden. Their regret is not your problem. This is your moment. Not for revenge, but for validation. The proof is in front of them now. They have no choice but to face it. Drop a comment below. I was never crazy. I was always chosen. Number 2. The weight of knowing. When the truth you carry crushes them. The greatest curse of the awakened is carrying a truth too heavy for the weak to hold. They called you a lunatic, a dreamer tangled in delusions. They whispered behind your back, smirked in your face, and distanced themselves as if your truth was a disease. Society has always had one rule: conform or be cast out. And you broke that rule simply by existing, simply by knowing what they refused to see. The weight of that rejection was suffocating. Friends faded like shadows at dusk. Family exchanged uneasy glances when you spoke. Strangers labeled you with words sharper than knives. You weren't just misunderstood, you were feared. Because what terrifies the masses more than someone who refuses to bow to the illusion? Someone who sees through the veil? Someone who cannot be fooled? That was you, and that made you dangerous in their eyes. You felt the burden of that truth with every judgmental stare, every hushed conversation, every cold shoulder. And in your darkest moments the questions crept in. Were they right? Was I imagining all of this? Should I silence myself just to fit in? Should I pretend to be blind so I don't have to carry this alone? The war was not just external, it raged inside of you. The loneliness, the self-doubt, the temptation to abandon what you knew just for a moment of peace. The world screamed at you to be normal, to fall in line, to let go of what they swore was just fantasy. And yet, something deep within you refused. Because beneath the mockery, beneath the isolation, beneath the relentless pressure to conform, there was something unshakable inside of you. A knowing so deep, so undeniable that no amount of laughter or rejection could erase it. You tried to ignore it, tried to drown it out. But the truth does not beg for validation. It does not need permission to exist. It simply is. And it whispered to you in the silence, in the dead of night, reminding you, this is real. And now, look at them. The same ones who laughed, who dismissed, who scorned. Now watch in stunned silence as everything they denied begins to unfold. Their mockery has turned to confusion. Their arrogance has melted into fear. Because the truth they once rejected has now become too obvious to ignore. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to face the reality that the person they ridiculed was the only one who saw clearly all along. And so they scramble. They try to rewrite history, pretend they never doubted you, act as if they were always on your side. But the past does not lie. You remember every insult, every betrayal, every moment they made you question yourself. And now, their regret is not your burden to carry. You stood your ground. You held on to what you knew, even when the entire world called you insane. And that is power. The kind of power they will never understand because they never had the courage to carry truth the way you did. They will wonder now, how did you know? Why could you see what they couldn't? They will want explanations, answers, clarity. But the reality is, they were never meant to see. Not everyone is built to handle truth. Some people are just here to follow, to live in comfortable ignorance, to laugh at what they don't understand. And that's why they rejected you. Not because you were wrong, but because your very existence shattered the illusion they depended on. But now you are free. Free from needing their approval. Free from seeking their understanding. Free from the weight of their ignorance. The burden of truth was never meant to break you. It was meant to set you apart. So let them watch. Let them scramble to make sense of it. Let them wrestle with the realization that they were blind, while you saw clearly. You owe them nothing. Not explanations, not apologies, not acceptance. They made their choice when they turned their backs on you. Now, they can live with it. Number 3. From laughter to silence. When their mockery becomes your crown. The strongest souls are always forged in the fires of ridicule. Today's lunatic is tomorrow's legend. They could call you mad, but they could never strip away the purpose burning inside you. Every insult, every scoff, every moment they dismissed you. It was never proof of your weakness, it was proof of their fear. And now look at them. The laughter that once filled the air has died into silence. The certainty they clung to like a crumbling wall is now shaking beneath them. Because you, the one they ridiculed, were right all along. They never had power over you. They only had noise. A desperate attempt to drown out the truth that made them uncomfortable. But the thing about truth? It doesn't need approval, it doesn't need permission, it doesn't need the masses to believe in it. Truth stands on its own, waiting patiently for time to catch up. And now, time has arrived. Every word they mocked, every vision they scoffed at, every warning they laughed off. It's all unfolding piece by piece, undeniable and inescapable. They can't pretend anymore. They can't rewrite the past. Their own memories betray them, forcing them to recall the times they sneered, the times they dismissed you as a fool, and now their disbelief has turned into unease. Their smirks have faded into shame. Because there is nothing more terrifying than realizing the person you mocked was telling the truth the entire time. History is littered with the bones of those who saw before their time. Those who carried a sight too sharp for the dull minds around them to comprehend. They called them insane, cursed, dangerous. Why? Because nothing is more threatening to the comfortable than someone who refuses to bow to illusion. You were never just another face in the crowd. You were never meant to be ordinary. The weight of your sight, the depth of your understanding, the knowing that stirred in your soul. This was never a burden. It was a mark, a seal of something greater. But the blind will always fear the ones who see. You stand among giants, the misunderstood, the exiled, the mocked, those whose visions were labeled as madness, until the world was forced to admit they were right. The ones who stood firm while the crowd jeered, only to have history rewrite their names in gold when the truth could no longer be denied. The greatest minds, the most unbreakable spirits, all walked this road before you. And now, it is your turn. They will pretend now. Pretend they never doubted you. Pretend they always saw the signs. Pretend they didn't try to break you when you were at your lowest. But the past does not lie. You remember every insult, every betrayal, every moment of loneliness when you questioned yourself because their voices were louder than your own. But you did not fold, you did not cave, you held the line. And now the very weight they tried to use to crush you has become your crown. You're not here for revenge. You're not here to convince them. You're here to stand, to be the proof that truth cannot be silenced, to be the living reminder that their laughter was never an indication of your weakness, but a reflection of their fear. Let them feel the weight of their mistakes. Let them struggle with their regret. Let them wrestle with the fact that the person they called insane now walks ahead of them, untouched, unshaken, vindicated. You were never just a lunatic screaming into the void. You were a force, unrecognized but unstoppable. A voice that could not be drowned out, a storm they tried to ignore, until it was right above their heads. And now, here you stand, watching as their illusion crumbles at their feet. You owe them nothing, not explanations, not forgiveness, not a place in your future. They had their chance. They made their choice. Number 4. When the future you saw becomes their nightmare. The greatest burden is seeing what others refuse to, until it's too late. They laughed when you spoke. They dismissed you as another fool lost in fantasies. Every word you uttered was met with smirks, every warning reduced to nothing more than noise. Noise to them. They couldn't fathom that the world they clung to so desperately was built on illusions. They refused to believe that cracks were forming beneath their feet. But the truth doesn't need their belief. It never did. And now it stands before them, undeniable, unshakable, a force they can no longer ignore. Their laughter has turned to whispers, their arrogance into uncertainty, because everything you said, everything they mocked, is happening. The words they scoffed at are now the reality they are forced to face. You were never speaking nonsense. You were never lost. You saw what they couldn't, what they refused to. And for that, they tried to bury you. Because nothing is more dangerous to the blind than the one who sees. They think this is new, that you are the first to walk this path. But history repeats itself, and the weight of truth has always crushed those unprepared to carry it. Every breakthrough was first met with resistance. Every revelation was first met with mockery. The ones who change the world are always branded as fools, until the world realizes they were never fools at all. You stand now, not in shame, not in self-doubt, but in vindication. The silence of your doubters is louder than their laughter ever was. Their fear is palpable because when reality proves you right, there is no running, no hiding, no pretending. They are left to drown in the weight of their own denial. They will ask themselves how they missed it, how they ignored the signs, how they let their pride blind them. But that is not your burden to carry. You do not exist to make them comfortable. You do not exist to convince them. You exist to see and to move forward, leaving behind those who refuse to walk beside you when it mattered most. So let them watch. Let them sit in the wreckage of their illusions, struggling to accept what was always there, right in front of them. You owe them nothing, not explanations, not apologies, not even a glance back. You were never crazy. You were always chosen. Number 5. When the universe speaks, the blind call. It coincidence to the ordinary, it's just a moment. To the chosen, it's a message. You've always known, long before the rest of them could even begin to comprehend. You saw the patterns, the whispers of the universe woven into your days like an invisible thread, pulling you toward something greater. While others stumbled through life, blind to the signs right in front of them, you felt every shift, every unspoken message, every echo of something beyond the surface. They call it coincidence. You know better. The dreams, the symbols, the synchronicities, they weren't random. They were blueprints, roadmaps carved into your soul long before they took shape in the physical world. Vivid flashes of places you had never been, yet somehow recognized, faces you had never met, yet somehow knew, events that played out in your mind before they unfolded in reality. And every time doubt tried to creep in, every time you questioned yourself, the universe sent another confirmation, a sign so precise, so undeniable, that even the most skeptical mind would struggle to explain it away. But the blind will always find a way to dismiss what they are too afraid to understand. It's just your imagination. It's just a dream. It's just a coincidence. Just excuses to keep themselves comfortable in their ignorance. Because to accept that there's something greater at play, to accept that you see what they don't, that would shatter the illusion they depend on. But deep down, they feel it too. They feel it when you speak, when you move, when you simply exist in a space. Your energy disturbs their false reality, forces them to confront the truth they spend their lives running from. That's why they try so hard to dismiss you. That's why they cling to their doubt. Because if they acknowledge you're right, they'll have to face everything they've been avoiding, but you don't need their validation. You never did. The universe doesn't waste time whispering to those who won't listen. It chooses the ones who are meant to hear, the ones who are meant to act, the ones who are built to see. You are one of those few, and that is why your journey has never been ordinary. That is why your mind refuses to settle for the shallow distractions of this world. That is why the signs keep appearing relentlessly until you accept the truth. You were never meant to be like them. You are not lost. You are being guided. Every number, every pattern, every dream, pieces of a puzzle designed just for you. The only question now is, will you listen? Number 6. When you see what others ignore, you walk alone. Awakening is not a gift wrapped in comfort. It is a fire that burns away illusions, leaving you standing in a world that no longer feels like home. You were never like them. You didn't just look, you saw. While they moved through life in a haze of distractions, you felt the shifts in energy, noticed the patterns, and heard the unspoken messages woven into reality. They called it coincidence. You knew better. But understanding the language of truth requires more than passive observation. It demands a mind that questions, a soul that listens, and a heart strong enough to accept what most refuse to acknowledge. Every whisper of intuition, every moment of déjà vu, every sign that felt too perfect to be chance, these were never accidents. They were the universe speaking directly to you. And while others shrugged it off, you paid attention. You were never lost. You were led. They don't understand what it means to see beyond the surface, to feel the pull of something greater guiding your steps, to sense shifts before they happen, to know things without knowing how. The world is filled with messages, some hidden in plain sight, others buried deep within your soul. But most people will never see them. They are too consumed by their distractions, too afraid of what true awareness demands. But you were built for this. To see the future before it unfolds is both a blessing and a burden. You have felt the weight of knowing, of carrying truths too heavy for those around you. You have glimpsed events yet to come, sensed the shifting tides of reality, and stood at the edge of time itself. And for this, they called you delusional. They dismissed your warnings, ignored your insights, and made you question whether your gift was a curse. But tell me, who was really blind? The one who saw, or the ones who refused to open their eyes? This path is not meant for the weak. It demands restraint, wisdom, and an unshakable spirit. You cannot force people to see what they are not ready for. You cannot make them understand what they are terrified to accept. And so, you walk alone. But solitude is not emptiness, it is refinement, the fire that forges the unbreakable. You were never here to be understood, you were here to understand. Let them call you whatever they want. Let them question. Let them doubt. It changes nothing. The truth has already made its mark on you, and no amount of disbelief can erase it. Number 7. Knowledge is a curse. When fools rule the world. The blind despise the ones who see, not because they doubt the truth, but because they fear it's real. The burden is not just in knowing, it's in deciding. Deciding when to speak, when to stay silent, when to let them walk into the destruction they swore would never come. You've learned that the truth is not just unwelcome, it is hated. The world does not cherish those who see beyond the illusion. It crucifies them. You tried to warn them. You saw the storm forming long before the first raindrop fell. You spoke up, laid it all out, thinking they would listen, thinking they would wake up. But they didn't. They laughed. They mocked. They turned your truth into a joke because their fragile minds couldn't handle it. Because if they accepted your words, they would have to accept that they were wrong. And weak people would rather drown in their delusions than admit they have been blind. So you stayed silent. You watched as time unraveled, as the very things they ridiculed you for became undeniable reality. And what did they do? Did they apologize? Did they admit you were right? Instead, they panicked. They scrambled. They pretended they saw it coming, as if history itself wasn't a witness to their mockery, and now their arrogance has rotted into fear. Because the one thing they thought they could ignore has now become the one thing they cannot escape. And that is the heaviest part of the burden, not just knowing the truth, but watching them destroy themselves with their ignorance. Watching their smirks turn to silence. Watching them choke on their own disbelief as reality slaps them in the face. Watching them finally realize that you were never the fool they were. But make no mistake, their rejection of you was never about logic. It was never about evidence. It was about control. If they admitted you were right, it meant they had to listen, it meant they had to change, and weak minds fear change more than they fear destruction. That is why they fought you so hard. That is why they threw stones, ridiculed you, tried to break you. It was never about truth, it was about keeping you silent. They wanted you to doubt yourself. They wanted you to question your own mind, to shrink, to fall in line. But you didn't. You endured. You held the weight of their ignorance on your back and walked through the fire anyway. And now, look at them. Lost, terrified, silent. Because when the truth finally arrives, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock. It breaks the door down. And now you stand on the other side, vindicated, unshaken, unchained. You do not need their approval. You do not need their apologies. You never did. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm, to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten wisdom.